Hi, my name is Jill Malcolm, and I am a part of our design team in our content development department. So, what that means is I get to work on the books that kids use in their classrooms. I get to choose what pictures go into the books, what colors the books are, and what types of fonts we use in the books. Um, so, today I'm going to be reading a book called Botanical Illustration. It is one of our Smithsonian STEAM readers. I chose this book because when I was a kid, I was interested in becoming an illustrator. Um, my plans changed a little bit as I got older, but I definitely decided to pick something where I still get to be creative. So let's start reading. All right. So this is our book, Botanical Illustration. It is by Christina Mercedes Urquhart. Here is our beautiful table of contents page. You can see one of the really beautiful botanical illustrations in the background. So, bringing nature to life. Have you ever drawn a plant that you saw in real life? Did you make sure that you included every leaf, stem, and flower you saw? Was your work accurate down to the smallest detail? Then a job as a botanical illustrator might be a good fit for you. These artists have a big job to do. They draw pictures of plants with lots of detail. The plants almost come to life on the pages. Botany is the field of science that studies plants. It is a huge field of study. There are a lot of plants in the world. An illustrator is someone whose job is to draw. Botanical illustrators draw plants for their jobs. These drawings are used in different ways. Some people use them to teach about plants around the world. Others put them on display in museum exhibits. And down below, you can see a woman observes art in a museum. And up at the right, a woman draws flowers in a garden. And below that, you can see some examples of botanical illustrations. They are very detailed. Botanical illustrations can be drawn in black and white. They can also be drawn in color. It all depends on what style the artist chooses. Black and white drawings show more detail. Color helps the art come to life. Artists decide what is best for each drawing. Many drawings are on plain white backgrounds. They include scale measurements of the plants. Scale is the size of something compared to something else. Parts of the plant may be drawn close up to show more of the plant's parts. Other drawings have backgrounds. They show what plants look like in their natural landscapes. All the drawings show parts of plants such as the roots, stems, leaves, buds, flowers, and fruit. The drawings are used to help scientists learn more about plants. So down below that, artists choose whether to use color or leave art in black and white. And big libraries are called archives. They store botanical illustrations. That way they are easier to find. Look at all those books in that picture on the right. Drawing on the past. People have drawn plants for thousands of years. All over the world, people made records of plants by drawing them. There was no computers or cameras long ago. Drawing was the only way to remember important plants. Before there was bottled medicine, people used plants to heal their bodies. People put plants on bug bites, cuts, and bruises. People dried plants too. They were made into teas. The teas were used as medicine. People were able to stay healthy by drinking teas made from these special plants. Plants used in this way are medicinal. That means they help people who are hurt or sick. They were very important. They were the first plants that botanists recorded. In the picture below that, you can see people use plants to make medicine. And on the right, two men illustrate plants around the 1500s. And mint is an herb used by people to make stomach pain go away. It tastes great too. I know it's one of my favorite types of teas. The oldest botanical drawings are over 4,000 years old. That is really old. They were found in ancient Egyptian tombs and temples. The Greeks and Romans drew plants too. They painted plants on pottery and coins. Plant drawings were put in books called herbals. These books were about plants that heal. Herbals made it easier to find special plants when they were needed. Age of Discovery. Explorers traveled the world to see what they could find. They made drawings of the plants they found. They wanted to have records of these new species. They took seeds and living plants home with them too. In the 1700s, explorers found many new plants. There was a rush to draw all the new plants. The world needed botanical illustrators. And here you can see explorers collected plants on trips and later recorded them in books. For engineering, going back in time. Some botanical illustrators drew plants that are now extinct. That means they do not exist anymore. Artists work with fossils to make drawings of what these plants looked like when they were alive. Some fossils are not complete. Others do not show many of the plant's details. To draw from fossils, artists have to combine what they already know about plants with what they see. And down below, Alexander von Humboldt was an explorer who collected and recorded many plants. Drawing styles. There are two types of botanical illustration. The first is called Linnaean style. It is named after the man who created it, Carl Linnaeus. As a young boy, he loved plants. He had his own garden by the time he was 5 years old. Linnaeus could name almost every plant he saw. He grew up to be a teacher and a botanist. In this style of drawing, plants have a lot of detail. They have beautiful colors. The background is white. The important parts of the plant are so large that they are easy to see. Below, you can see an example of Linnaean style art and a picture of Carl Linnaeus. And at the time of his death, Linnaeus was one of the most famous scientists in Europe. In 1739, William Bartram was born. He loved nature and grew up to be a botanist and an artist. He was a poet too. Most importantly, he was a naturalist. He shared what he knew about nature by teaching others about it. Bartram created a new style of drawing plants. It's called the ecological style. This style looks at all of nature, not just the plants. Drawings include the animals and bugs that live with the plants. Below you can see an example of what ecological style art looks like and a picture of William Bartram. Make your mark. Today, botanical illustrators are hired to draw plants for scientists. Botanists spend a lot of time studying plants. Drawing helps them show what they've learned. The most important part of an illustrator's job is to make their drawings accurate. That means they should look just like the plants do in real life. Every detail must be right. Drawings must show the parts of the plants that help make new plants. They must show special parts that make the plants stand out from others that are similar. They also must show the way plants grow and change over time. Some plants grow tall and strong. Others stay low to the ground and make a clump. This is the plant's habit. Even though each plant grows a little differently, all plants of the same kind have the same habit. Botanical illustrator Alice Tangerini works on an illustration. It looks like she's looking in some sort of a microscope so she can get a closer view of the details of the plants. Botanical illustration of a marsh willow herb is seen right there, and then below that, a photo of a marsh willow herb. So you can compare the two, what the illustrator's version looks like and what the real version looks like. And one plant illustration can take almost 50 hours to draw. That's more time than you spend in school in an entire week. Right. Botanical artists work together with the scientists who hire them. The scientist's job is to write the text that describes the plant. The artist's job is to make a drawing that will give that text more meaning. Both jobs are equal. First, scientists and artists try to identify the plant by looking at it. If they can't identify the plant, they look at other plants that are similar. This helps them know what parts the plant has and what details need to be pointed out. Then they classify the plant. Scientists have special categories for each type of plant. Artists use the text to help them draw the plant. If the plant does not have a name, scientists name the plant. And down below, you can see an example of what plant identification looks like. First, they identify the type of plant, so it's a sunflower. Then they describe it. It has bright yellow petals around a large brown seed disc, heart-shaped leaves, 5-foot tall stem, and blooms annually. Then they classify it. It's called from the Helianthus family, and its name is Helianthus annuus. Dried leaves are shown in the top right, and then botanical illustrations make the details easy to see. And for arts, plants are pretty. Like all artists, botanical illustrators think about the elements of drawing when they work on a piece. These elements include line. Should the lines be thick or thin, light or dark? Shape. Should the drawing be two-dimensional, 2D, or three-dimensional, 3D? Tone. How should the drawing be shaded? Space. How much of the space around the plant should be included? And color. Should the drawing be in color? Should it be black and white? Botanical illustrators must follow some rules. These rules help make all plant drawings easy to compare. This way, people from around the world can understand the drawings, even if they speak different languages. Here are some rules of botanical illustration. 1. Do not draw too many shadows. They block out the details. 2. Use dots to create depth and show a plant's shape. Depth is a sense of space. Light should appear to come from the top left side of the drawing. This helps compare plants because shadows are all on the same side. 4. Keep drawings accurate. 5. Botanical illustrators need to know everything about plants they draw and their parts. This is called structure. The structure of the plant is how all the parts come together. And here you can see an example of a hibiscus flower and the structure of the plant. You can see the receptacle, the stigma, the anther, the sepal. And then below that, you can see the petal type, the style, and the pedicel. And for technology, tools of the trade. Today, many botanical illustrators use computers to draw, but simple tools work well. Botanical illustrators use ink pens to draw outlines and add depth. They use graphite pencils to add shading. They use brushes made from animal hairs to draw small, smooth, curved lines. Finally, they use pencils or watercolors to add color. Graphite pencils are just like the pencils that you use in school. I have a lot of art supplies because I also like drawing, but as a graphic designer, I get to use more computers, so I draw on the computer as well. The right stuff. To get a piece just right, botanical illustrators need to look closely at real plants. Once they have plants to study, it is important that they use the right tools to make the best illustrations they can. Plant materials. Plant samples can be live or dried. Most of the time, artists work from dried plants. These plants have been preserved. That means they have been kept looking the same as when they were alive. Dried plants are stored in plant bags called herbaria. Artists draw from living plants too. Some plants come straight from the garden. Some artists are also gardeners. They grow their own plants to use as subjects. Other artists travel the world to find their next subjects. And down below, you can see what preserved samples in an herbarium look like. Science, plant preservation. Have you ever put a flower between the pages of a book to let it dry? Scientists and artists do something similar to preserve plants. First, they find plants they want to dry. Then they put them in a machine called a plant press. It looks like a stack of wood and paper with straps around it. Plants are placed between the sheets of paper and cardboard. This helps absorb moisture. When plants are fully dried, they are ready to be stored. Botanical art materials. Artists need good drawing tools. The best tools help artists be precise. Precise means exact. Illustrators are very good at this. Art pencils are some of the best tools to start sketching. They are like the pencils you use in school, but these pencils come in a number of different shades of gray. They are great for sketching. They can be sharpened and erased easily. Artists also use colored pencils. Artists can use them to add color quickly without waiting for ink or paint to dry. Some artists use tools other than pencils. One of these tools is a special pen called a dip pen. It gets the name because you must dip it in a jar of ink to use it. The artist may also use a quill, which is the pointy end of a feather. Watercolor painting is another way to add color and detail. The artist mixes the colors and paints them with a brush. And below you can see a quill in ink and then an example of watercolor painting. Mathematics, shrink it. Many artists measure the plants they draw. This helps them keep their artwork in proportion. If they draw a plant half its normal height, then they also draw it at half its normal width. This is called drawing to scale. Modern technology. Artists use many tools. Pencils, pens, and brushes are some of them. These are traditional tools. They have been used for a long time. Modern tools such as computers are used too. Botanical artists practice for many years. Most start out with pencils, then they move on to paint. Some learn how to draw on tablet computers with special pens. There are special programs just for drawing. They allow artists to erase and add color just like they can with pencils and paper. Unlike paper, however, you can use a tablet over and over again. Sketches can be saved on the tablet instead of in drawers. Botanical artists can use traditional tools, modern tools, or a mix of both, but the goal is still the same. They want to make a plant come to life through art. And here you can see how a woman uses a computer to draw. And up at the top right, botanical illustrator Wendy Hollander uses pencils and colored pencils to draw a peanut plant. And scientific illustrators also work in other areas of science. Some draw living animals such as insects, or even extinct animals such as dinosaurs. The need for botanical illustrators. Keeping records is an important part of science. People can learn from records that have been saved. Botanical illustrators work with scientists to make records of all the plants they find. These records help pass on what we know about plants. Future scientists can learn from these records and add to them. One day, some of the plants that have been drawn may become extinct. People will not be able to go and look at the plant in the wild anymore. The record will be all that is left. Studying extinct plants and animals may help in the future. People can use these records to learn what caused plants to die. And they may find ways to protect the plants that are still around. Drawings that are being made today can help people in the future. And below you can see Tangerini draws a plant outside. And on the right at the top, this drawing shows what life may have looked like millions of years ago. And below that, this illustrator draws underwater. Then we have our STEAM challenge. First, we're going to define the problem. Sometimes botanical illustrators preserve plants before they draw them. Other times, they go to the plants in nature. You have been asked to make an illustration of a plant in your neighborhood. Your task is to find the best way to get a detailed drawing of your specimen that is easily identified by someone else. Constraints. The plant must be drawn with the specimen in front of you and not from memory. Criteria. Draw a plant using as many details as you can to help a partner identify the plant. Research and brainstorm. Where do artists find plants? How do artists collect specimens? What are the pros and cons to collecting a specimen? What are the pros and cons to drawing a specimen in the field? Design and build. Make a detailed plan for how you will draw your plant. Will you draw it outside where it is growing? What materials and tools will you use to draw it? Then follow your plan and make your drawing. Test and improve. After making your illustration, show it to a partner. Can they identify the plant? How can you improve it? Modify your plan and try again. Reflect and share. Think about your experience. What went well? What did not? Then we have our glossary and index. Give you guys a second to look that over. And career advice from Smithsonian. Do you want to draw nature? Here are some tips to get you started. To me, all plants are works of art. Capturing their beauty on paper is challenging, but I can't imagine doing anything else. When I was a child, I used to draw the birds and insects I saw in our backyard. Draw every chance you get. Alex Tangerini, illustrator. Botanical illustration is very precise. You must get every part of the plant just right. This takes a lot of attention to detail. Sometimes I study a plant for hours. Only when I feel like I really know the plant do I start drawing. Rusty Russell, former botany collections manager of the National Herbarium. And we have some read and respond questions. 1. How did people use botanical illustrations in the past? 2. How do botanical illustrators preserve plants? 3. What is important about the ecological style of drawing? 4. What personality traits would a botanical illustrator need to have? 5. What types of things might change the job of a botanical illustrator in the future? And 6. Think of the top 5 questions that you would ask if you had the chance to interview a botanical illustrator. All right. All right. Thank you for listening to me read that book. I really hope that you guys participate in that STEAM challenge. I would really love to see some drawings that you guys did of plants in your neighborhood. Thank you.